Yeah. So the fundamental core data structure in the Spark is data frame. And also I mentioned that data frame is a like it can be termed as distributed collection of data that is organized into columns that have names, right? So whatever the file you read, whatever the data you read in the with the help of data frame, okay, that will be considered as distributed collection of the data, okay, and the data is organized into rows and columns, right? And yesterday we have seen some of the simple syntaxes. So for reference purpose, I jotted down this. So when you say like select column from my table in the SQL, you say df dot select, right? Describe in the sense here print schema. Select star from my table where here df dot filter, like group by order by means order by column. Where means you filter year greater than 90. So we listed down some of the properties, like some of the syntaxes with different with respect to SQL, right? So that's how the basic concepts of the data frame, which we have seen yesterday, right? And also, if you remember, yesterday we have seen the Delta Lake. So what is the Delta Lake? So Delta Lake is open storage layer that brings ACID properties, ACID transactions to Apache Spark and data workloads. So I was saying yesterday, so whatever the data processing that you do in the Spark, okay, or in the Databricks in particular, okay. So if you the Delta Lake applies, okay, ACID transactions. Okay, so with the help of ACID transaction, it supports integrity and performance for both streaming and batch data. So whether it's batch data or streaming data, it applies for the data processing, it applies the ACID properties. Okay, and you need to remember that it is not a data storage. Okay, as I was saying, it's not a data storage. It is a format that is defined when you create a data frame against the data layer, which brings ACID capabilities. Okay, so it's not a storage format actually. So whenever you create the data frame, okay, and you try to process the data, okay, you apply this format for the data. Okay, you apply the format on the top of the data frame. Okay, then what happens when you work with the data frame, okay, by applying this as delta lake format, so what happens, all the data will be will be applied a ACID transaction that will be under ACID transaction. There will be transaction based data. Okay, so it's not a storage system. Basically it's a format which you apply to the data frame that we discussed. Okay, and in the data layers there are only three types of data layers at high level. So even while talking about data lake, not delta lake, data lake, initially I was saying that in the real-time scenarios we divide any data or we partition the data into three divisions, like landing zone, raw zone, curated zone, or like reporting zone, right? Various formats depends upon the requirement. So same way here at high level, we have a delta lake, we have three types. Sorry, it's not data, it's delta. Okay, so delta lake has three kind of tables. One is a bronze table, which contains raw data, like as you get the data directly, it's like a raw layer, I can say, bronze. And silver tables will provide a more refined view of your data. You can join fields from various bronze tables to enrich streaming records or update accounts based on the recent activity, right? Silver means like a high level of or first level of refinement of the data from the bronze. So bronze you get as it is. Silver in the sense, like say suppose you want to filter some data, right, and you want to consider only some data for a future further processing, right? Or you have like few tables in the bronze where you need to join and make some of the tables out of it to the silver zone. Okay, that is a silver zone tables. And gold tables provides business level aggregates. I was saying the gold more of a aggregates the data. Okay, so summarize data, aggregates data for reporting purpose, we use a gold layer. Okay, so in general we have three kinds of the tables. So we have like ingestion tables as a bronze, refine tables like silver, so it can be two like multiple tables. And aggregate data store, we have more tables, because we create different aggregations on top of it. Okay, so existing data lake will be there, data lake storage and Hadoop storage. Okay, and once you perform this data, we use the further for analytics and machine learning. So if you in the traditional architecture which I was saying, the end result will be used either for the analytics reporting purpose or for the machine learning. This is the delta lake architecture. Okay, so this is very, very important regarding the interview purpose, even the real-time purpose. Okay, even the exam point of view. So just you need to remember that it is a format which you apply to the data frame while processing the data, which brings acid properties to the data processing. And we have high level 3 kinds of tables. Okay, are you clear? Are you with me?
Yes, Professor.
Ram, you join with multiple devices or what? 2 times I see you always.
No, no, actually my laptop mic is not working. That's why I joined in
Okay,
mobile.
okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's about the delta lake. And if you remember that in the Apache Spark Azure Synapse Analytics, we have also seen Apache Spark. Okay, if you remember that there is SQL pool and Spark pools, okay, which recently introduced, like I was saying that Azure Synapse Analytics has recently implemented. In that, Apache Spark has been added. Okay, so Apache Spark is been added into the Azure Synapse. Okay, so by taking uh, open source platform for the Spark. Okay, so same thing, right? In the Databricks, how it has been developed? It has been developed on the top of open source Spark, like Apache Spark. In the same way, of the Databricks, Azure also developed this Apache Spark. It's kind of they're trying to create a competent for the Databricks, so that they are kind of creating a complete suite for the applications to develop. Okay, so it's kind of indirectly creating a compete, but still people are not at not started at using this Apache Spark. Still people are using Databricks, but over the period of time, maybe people start using this in the place of that. Okay, so if you revise this, Apache Spark is a parallel processing framework that supports in-memory processing to boost the performance of big data analytics application. So it's a parallel processing framework I was saying, because we have like control nodes and compute nodes. So if you remember that we have driver program and executor program, where the data will be processed in the parallel in the in-memory processing. Okay, that will be done in the in-memory processing. Yeah. And Apache Spark is one of the analytics is one of in the analytics is one of the Microsoft implementations of Apache Spark in the cloud. Azure Synapse makes it easy to create and configure Spark pool in Azure Synapse Analytics. Like we create different kind of clusters and work with the data. So Azure Synapse, okay, provides this Spark, Apache Spark, okay, through which you can create Spark pool in Azure Synapse Analytics. Okay, the same way you create SQL pool, you can create the Spark pool, right? So the same, it's same like a SQL pool. So, but for Apache Spark, they created the Apache Spark, through which you can create the Spark pool. Okay, and Apache Spark in Azure Synapse uses yarn, yet another resource negotiator, which controls the maximum sum of memory used by all containers on each of the Spark models. Okay, it uses yarn, yet another resource navigator. Okay, so if you remember that I was talking about yarn while talking about Hadoop. So where is the structure? Yeah, so here cluster manager is a yarn. Okay, so cluster manager is the yarn which controls the maximum sum of memory used by all containers on each of the Spark node. So on each node executor, these are all nodes is there, right? So if you see, all the nodes will be there. So this is MPP architecture, right? We have driver program and executor program. So where we have in the Synapse, if you're talking about dedicated SQL pool, we were talking about control node, okay, control node, and what is that node? I forgot. Control node and data node, right? So here also we have driver program and node executor program, and cluster manager is a yarn which controls memory for occupied by all the different nodes. Okay, and Spark application runs as independent set of process and pool coordinated by a Spark context object in your main program. So cluster manager is a Spark context. Okay, so this coordinates all the pools. So these are all the pools. You can say executor. These are all the nodes are there, right? So these are the different pools. So driver connects with the cluster manager. So this driver manager is there. So this first connects with the cluster manager, like in the traditional MPP program. Then the cluster manager, okay, connects to the pool and responsible for converting an application to direct acyclic graph. So Raju, you were talking about DAG, right? So you're talking about DAG, right? So whatever the process, whatever the problem statement is given, that will be analyzed and that will be converted into DAG, okay, directed acyclic graph. Then the actual performance or processing will be performed. Okay, so this is same MPP architecture, but we are using the terminology like cluster manager, which is yarn, which manages the memory among the nodes, and it creates a DAG, acyclic directed acyclic graph, which is a terminology for Apache Spark, which evaluates and implements the data processing. Okay. And the graph, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, cluster manager is more like a resource allocator.
Yes, resource allocator, exactly, resource allocator. So here it called as Spark context object. Okay, Spark context is also called yarn. So yarn is the one which does this cluster manager role over here, which takes care of allocation of the resources and manages the memory.
Purushottam, like the cluster manager types also there, right?
Cluster manager types.
Yeah, standalone.
No, that is a no. See, this cluster manager is a concept, but cluster you're talking about in particular to Databricks you're talking about. That is a cluster standalone cluster and what is a concurrent cluster you're talking about, right? Yeah, that is a cluster. This a cluster manager is a concept which controls the resources. So that is actual implementation. I can say there is a respect with respect to Databricks, but here there is a high level concept I'm talking about, not in particular to any technology. Okay, so when you talk about Databricks or Apache Spark, both are related because both are developed on top of Apache Spark open source. Okay, so most of the terminology, most of the MPP architecture will be same. There won't be any difference. But as we're talking about Synapse in terms of Azure, so you need to learn, you need to understand the concepts of Apache Spark pool, the Synapse pool, and as well as the Databricks. Are you clear? Are we good with this? How does it perform and all? So I was saying that this is the Spark pool. Well, let us see what is Spark pool and instance in extension to that. Right, see, Spark pool, when it's created, it creates a Spark instance that processes the data. Like same way in the SQL pool, when you create instance which process. Here also, when you create Spark pool, it creates instance of the Spark, which processes the actual data. Okay, and you need to remember that it exists only as metadata when it's created. No resource are consumed, running, or charged for. Okay, so whenever your Spark pool is created, it creates an instance, okay, only with the metadata. It doesn't charge anything. As long as it's not performing any operation, it's not charged. Same like you can say what do you say, the serverless SQL pool, right? So when it processes the data, when it performs some operation on top of the data, then only it will be charged. Okay. And I was saying, when you create Spark pool, it creates instance. So this is the instance. Okay. So what happens when it is created? Okay, it creates a session and runs a job. So when its Spark pool is created, instance will be created, which creates a session and runs the execution. Okay. And see, as multiple users may have access to single Spark pool, a new Spark instance is created for each user that connects. So what happens initially, a Spark pool will be created. We'll see that. So once you create the pool, okay, and then a Spark instance will be created. It creates a session for a user, then it performs the data processing. Okay, so these are the two basic concepts high level to Azure Synapse Spark pool and Spark instance. So you can say all, like in the Synapse, usually we are talking about dedicated SQL pool, serverless SQL pool, right? So that is the reason here also termed as Spark pools. Are we good? Any doubts? Sudhakar, Susmita? Yeah. So yes, you go through that slides, and if it needed, you go through some of the articles as well to go through this definitions and all. But honestly, for exam you may need it, but in the actual real time you may not be needed that. Only just definitions are good enough for the Azure Spark, because hardly people are using. Just you need to know that there is something called Spark pool in the Synapse Analytics. That should be good enough. No need to like have any real-time scenarios or exposures for this. Okay, so people still not yet started using this. Right. So this is the one of the slide which I've added. So when you get time, you go through this. So basically what it talks about is, what happened? This got misplaced, I think. Sorry, 1 second. Oh, I created on top of something else. It's not going. Fine. So now we're talking about Apache Spark, which is open source. HD Insight we talk about, and we talk about Azure Databricks. Also, we talk about the Synapse Spark as well. Then what to use, when to use, who and why. So there is a good comparison has been given, which I placed over here to discuss here. So when I talk about Apache Spark, what is that? So it's an open source memory optimized system for managing big data workloads. Okay, so we were saying we already discussed this. It's an open source memory optimized system. Okay, so whenever the big data processing is there, okay, it's we use this open source memory optimized one, Apache Spark. Okay, then HD Insight. What is the HD Insight then? So it's a earlier Microsoft implementation of Apache Spark within the realm of Azure. So earlier, before Azure Databricks, before Azure Synapse Spark, Microsoft did implement this Apache Spark with the name of HD Insight. So same thing Microsoft implemented on top of Open Spark. Okay. Now Azure Databricks. So a managed Spark as service solution. So is a managed Spark as service solution. Managed in the sense Azure itself manages as solution. It's a more of a PaaS service. So all the Spark clusters like jobs, everything, Azure Databricks itself manages that. Right? Now Synapse Spark, embedded Spark capabilities within the Azure Synapse Analytics. So same like Spark itself, but the capability is embedded. It is wrapped under Azure Synapse Analytics. This one you know, right? So Apache Spark is open source. HD Insight is the initial implementation of the Spark, Azure Databricks is as managed Spark as service, like platform as service. We have managed Spark as service, and Synapse service is within the Azure Synapse Analytics, the same Spark capability. Okay, this is the definitions of these four at high level. Then when you want to benefit of Spark for big data processing or data science work without the service level agreement of a provider. Okay, so there is, when there is no restrictions, like in on-premise, there is no restriction, there is no service level agreement, there are no restrictions on the level of processing or processing speed, then you'll go for the Apache Spark. Okay, now HD Insight, when you want to benefit of OSS Spark with the service level agreement of a provider. So when you have with some of the service level agreement, then you'll go for the HD Insight, but hardly nobody using this, so you can ignore this. But why Databricks then? Provides end-to-end data engineering and data solution and managed platform. Okay, so leave about service level agreement that already will be there as part of Azure or as part of cloud provider, but it provides a managed platform. So everything it takes care of as like cloud, as it is cloud, and there is no overhead on the user to talk about infrastructure or anything or user interface, right? So it itself manages. Now, when it comes to Synapse Spark, enables organizations without existing Spark implementation to fire up a Spark cluster to meet data engineering needs without the overhead of other Spark platform distance. What it is saying is that, so you don't need to involve any other platform, Spark platform like Databricks and all. So within the Azure itself, it provides all the implementation with the help of the Spark clusters. Okay. Then who uses usually Apache Spark? Of course, open source professionals and HD Insight open source professional, but who needs SLA and Microsoft Data Platform experts? They uses HD Insight. And Azure Databricks, as we were talking about every day, data engineers and data scientists working on big data projects everyday uses. And Synapse Spark, data engineers, data scientists, and data platform experts and data analysts. Okay, even data analyst also uses apart from data engineers, data science, because you can create a with the help of spool, you can create report out of it and you can start consuming the data. Okay, so that is at high level what, when, who, and why. So why Apache Spark used? It's a multi-processing system. Okay, and it's open source memory, right? So to overcome the limitation of SMP system imposed on big data workloads. Okay, so SMP, simple processing. Okay, single processing. So earlier we have single node processing, and which was not able to process the data for the big data. So that is the reason to overcome that Apache Spark has been evolved. And HD Insight to take advantage of OSS Big Data Analytics platform with SLAs in place to business continuity. So same with Apache Spark, but we need to also take care of SLA as I was saying in the previous definitions. And Databricks, it provides the ability to create and manage an end-to-end big data science project using one platform. So, okay, so within the Azure Databricks, it creates a single platform where you can implement end-to-end data and data science, data engineering and data science projects. And whereas this one, it provides the ability to scale efficiently with the Spark cluster within the one-stop shop data warehousing platform as Synapse. So it's integrated with Synapse Analytics data warehousing. So at a single place, you can perform all the operations with the help of various things like we have a Spark pool, Synapse pool, sorry, Synapse, Synapse pipelines, and we have dedicated SQL pool and serverless SQL pool. So within that, it provides a single platform where you can perform all the operations. Okay, so that is a high level of differences among these four applications which are developed on top of Apache Spark. Okay. So any doubts so far? It's more of theory. So I tried to revise everything along with the Apache Spark pool. So this should be good enough for the Apache Spark pool. So let me go to this Databricks. Everyone is so silent. Are you with me?
So like
Yeah, please tell me.
yeah, we'll be calling Spark as a lazy evaluation. No?
Yeah, lazy evaluation. Lazy evaluation is one of the integrated part in the Databricks, right?
Yeah. Can you explain that scenario now? Like why?
Yeah, yesterday I was talking about, right, lazy evaluation. So lazy evaluation is more of instead of loading the data at first instance itself, whenever you process the data. So what it does, first it analyzes the data and computation. Okay, then it creates a logical plan. Okay, then it based on the data plan, based on the logical plan, okay, it implements the physical plan on top of the data. So instead of the data loading at first instance itself, it prepares the kind of a algorithm which you need to perform. Then it performs on the distributed data and get the data out of it. Okay, so let's talk about a lazy evaluation. So like yesterday I was talking about logical plan and physical plan in the different phases, right? So
Yeah.
that is the lazy evaluation. And yesterday I did what do you say? I did added the recording and this one, but I had to add the files. I will try to add that today. Files. And if you want more about lazy evaluation, I will give one of the notebook. Okay, and you can go through that. So we're talking about lazy evaluation yesterday already. Transformations are lazy, actions are eager, I was saying. Where is that? Yeah. So we have like Catalyst Optimizer, which does all the series of operations. First, the data comes and unresolved data plan. So Catalog Optimizer, this analyze the data. Then a logical plan will be implemented. It will be like created. Then logical plan will be optimized. Then the physical plan will be implemented based on the effective cost model. So based on the like it has some of the plans, and based on the effective cost model, it selects one of the physical plan. Then the appropriate code will be generated, which will be executed on top of RDD. So the data will not be loaded at initial phases, but it will undergo series of planning. Then it will do the actual execution.
On that case now, like the core part will be RDD only, right? On top of RDD only.
Yes, I was saying, right, everything will be there on the as RDD in the Spark. Okay, everything will be all the data will be loaded, or all the data will be stored as RDD block in the Spark, as I was saying. So on top of RDD, data frame will be created, because RDD is generic, and data frame gives more what do you say, more more flexibility to the user to play around or process the data. So that is the reason a data frame has been implemented. And when you when you process the data with the help of data frame, either you will use Scala or you use PySpark, it will be same as I was saying, if you remember that. Okay, the same processing will be there. And in this so what are the languages that you can use with the Databricks? What are the languages I was saying?
R, Python, Scala,
And SQL.
SQL.
SQL is there, right? So here what do we have is we have PySpark, that is Python Spark we have, and we have Scala, of course. We have, of course, SQL we have. Apart from that, as it is Microsoft supported, we have even C# as well. Even C# also, with .NET C# also, you can write the code. That is a extra feature we have. So if you are C# programmer, you can start implement the same logic with the C#. Okay, and all this will be translated, underlined into Scala code, which will be executed on RDD. Okay, so whatever you write the code, what happens, that will be converted into underlying Scala, then that will be executed. Okay, that is the reason if you write code in the Scala itself, it will be faster performance. But with the help of data frame, that has been minimized a lot, the processing. So there is a considerable difference when you talk about the processing speed. If you write the code Scala, if you write the code in SQL or PySpark. Okay, and myself, I started practicing only PySpark. I never tried to learn Scala, because like I'm more of from the SQL background. I'm more comfortable with the PySpark. And if you are comfortable with the Scala, you can go ahead and you can start exploring Scala itself. Okay, it's all up to you, which language you want to take it up. So I just created this, and by the time, let me see if I can show you something. Yeah, we'll see some of the things using the DataLake and try to show you something. And at the same time, let me create a pool. So leaving the Databricks, are you good with up to date with Azure Basics? Whatever we have, like Azure Basics, in the sense like Azure SQL pools, and ADF. Are we good? If you are good with that, then you can start. You can start even prepare for the exam, and you can start applying for the job also, I can say. Hello, Ram, are you getting enough time to practice whatever we discussed? Sudhakar, I think Sudhakar is doing good practice. Keeps asking me some of the questions.
No, just completed ADF subscription.
Okay. So if you, as I was saying, if you are good with ADF and Azure SQL and all, that should be good enough to start your things. I can talk more about after stop the recording.
So, Purushottam, in
Yeah.
ADF, we are not seeing the data flow, right? We are work on only control flow.
In the sense?
In ADF, there is another one option that is data flow. So in that,
Okay.
so many components are there. Like in our SSIS, there are so many
Yes,
components
yes.
are
That
available
is
in
the,
SSIS.
yes, there's the data flow you're talking about, right?
In data
Yes.
flow,
Yeah. So
in
we,
ADF.
we had one example, right, for the data flow. Is it not?
I think we are just checking on the copy activity component, And
No,
in
no.
that we check
That is the
configuration.
yeah, in the control activity we use copy activity and all, but even in the data flow we had one example by taking several transformations, right? Is it not? I think I covered that under the data flow. Sudhakar, did we not cover the data flow?
Yeah, Purushottam. I mean, we covered few of the transformations in data flow.
Yeah, that should be good. So if you know those are the things, that should be good enough. So we covered some of the transformations, but still I was talking about SCD, right? You were talking about SCD that is pending. Yeah, we'll do that SCD one.
Yeah, and how do we send trigger an email to the group of people when any pipeline got failed?
Yeah, pipeline fail, like you need to create alert. So you need to create alerts even in the Azure portal directly, or you can create the alert within the ADF studio itself. So you need to, I'll show, okay, we don't have anything over there, but there is simple. So there is a kind of alert. So click on alert, and there it will ask the phone number, whether you want to text it, you want to SMS it, or you want to send an email. Then you can send an email, and based on the multiple conditions. So whether a pipeline fails or a trigger fails or an activity fails, you have n number of conditions. Based on the condition, you can create a email mechanism over there.
I think logic apps also we can send, right?
Yeah, logic apps also it we can send, but alert is a simple mechanism which we use usually in the real time as well.
Is it a transformation or?
No, it's not a transformation. It's simply outside of transformation. It's kind of a monitoring mechanism from the Azure perspective. It's not a transformation. Directly we can do outside of that. So you're saying within the Azure, within the what do you say? Within the
Pipeline.
analytics, within the pipeline. No, within the pipeline, you may not be able to do that directly. For that, you need some of the extra components. Yeah, I was saying like
Email
logic apps and
components
all.
and
You need to
things.
do that, but directly you cannot do that. Myself, I never tried. I always used that alerts mechanism.
Okay, we'll see one example like when we are doing SCD.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Actually, it's my mistake. I would have show it to then itself. Maybe I'll show in the SCD. So maybe what we'll do is, so Synapse Spark, Synapse pipeline, we haven't covered it, right? So maybe we will see that SCD here, there itself. Maybe tomorrow we'll see that. Okay. So Synapse Spark Pool, I will try to show you that the Spark Pool will cover sometime, and we'll do first SCD, then we'll show you the Spark Pool as well. I'll do that tomorrow. So we'll kind of finish everything except that the streamatics and event hubs thing.
Mount point.
Sorry.
Mount point.
Sorry, I did not get you.
Mount point, Purushottam.
Oh, mount. Yeah, mounting. I was forgetting. I thought to capture some of the code and show it to you. I am forgetting every time. I do have the code. It's simple code where you will write just that Saskia and do that. Yeah, we'll see that tomorrow. With the text, I'm not sure with this community edition. This once I create the cluster, I should have do it first instance itself. So the cluster is not getting started once it is terminated. So each time I had to go ahead and create a new one. I'm not sure why it is doing that.
So is your Visual Studio subscription expired?
Yeah, it's expired long back. It is there again. It will be reactivated on 20th again, 20.
Or is it for 1 month only or?
No, it's for 1 month only. No, it's not like that. Every month still you have that, what do you say? Your credits, yeah. Once your credits, you need to use that credits like for 1 month. Same like your Azure free subscription, right?
Okay.
Same thing. So if you use that within first 1 week, then it's gone. So this one I was showing this, the same thing format it will show. And So we did not executed this. So I wanted to execute this. I wanted to show you this actually. Okay, meanwhile, let's see if it is getting executed. Okay, deployment is executed. This costs a lot. And as I was saying, Synapse Studio itself is started appearing in the exam only from the 203 only. Earlier it was not there. So even if I talk about last 6 months, it was not available in the as part of exam. Even people also not was using a lot. Let me tell you when it exacted. So if you remember, if you know the basics and all, that should be good enough.
Now, in real time, how the synapse will be used? I mean, we saw only how to read the data from file or how to load into an external table, right?
Yeah, the
So-
same thing, the same thing. So 1 second. So it's there 6 months back only, December. Yeah. See, whatever the operation, see, I was keep on saying, it's nothing new in the Synapse Analytics. Only it is an integrated platform where you can perform all operations at a single place. Okay, say suppose Microsoft is trying to promote this, and company the application started developing application only Synapse. So what you'll do, they will use the dedicated SQL pool. They'll create dedicated SQL pool on top of Synapse Analytics. Okay, and they'll use the Synapse pipelines instead of the ADF. Okay, instead of ADB, they will use the Spark pool. Okay, so everything they will use as part of the integrated studio itself instead of using the separate one. Otherwise, there is not much difference. That's what I'm saying. If you know the basics of Synapse Analytics, and if you're comfortable enough in the dedicated SQL pool and ADF and the Databricks, you no need to concentrate much in terms of the Synapse Analytics. And people also not yet started using much into Synapse Analytics. Why it's taking time? Are you getting what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like Azure Data Explorer is there, no? Like,
Yeah. Yes.
is it a separate domain where we'll be getting separate entry calls?
Data Explorer, no, it's part of Azure Data Stack, and myself haven't explored that much. No, it's not a separate one. Why you feel separate? No, it's not a separate one. And as I was saying, if you are good with Azure SQL, Azure Storage, Azure Data Factory, that should be good enough to start your things. So myself, I was comfortable only with these 3 things when I started my Azure career. Even the new people also, I suggest the same thing. And the rest of things all added advantage for you and also helps for your exam.
So, they based on these 3 points, is it good to get a job?
Yes, of course, very easy.
Okay.
Yes.
Azure SQL, Azure Storage,
Yes.
and ADF.
Yes.
Okay.
That should be good. Myself did not work much in the Databricks. Still.
This is costly, so maybe because of that, people are not using.
Which
Because
one?
nowadays, Databricks.
No, it's not about costly. People still using that. I'm saying that people using, and the people also asking about the requirement. But the thing is that what I'm trying to say is, even though if you don't know that, still you can get a job, and then you can start learning within your job opportunity. I'm saying people use a lot Databricks. So whenever you have huge amount of the data processing, definitely there will be Databricks. in the preparation and the train phase. So there's no big data project without Databricks, I can say. But there'll be some of the projects which have like less computation, less processing, and they don't want to go for the Databricks. They'll go for the ADF only. And sometimes they will do all the processing within the with the help of SQL only. Like in SSIS we do SQL, right? So still people uses that as well. Some of the companies, and some of the companies we have huge data processing and all, they'll go for the Databricks. Because that MPP architecture, it helps, right? So why it's taking so much of time? I'm extremely sorry for that. Not sure. I'm just wasting my time. This is also taking time, and that is also taking time. So here the thing is that I wanted to show you this. I mounted, there is inbuilt code which is available as part of Databricks training. So it just set up everything. Then on top of it, I can show you some of the things like how does this data works. Like here, this one, delta is a right. So this is how we write the data. So even like when you create the data, when you write back the data, right, you can write with the help of the delta by using a partition key also, so that it will be very quick when you get the data. So that I wanted to show, but unfortunately it's not showing.